My name is Andrew Miller. I'm 42, American, married 15 years, and up until that Tuesday, I honestly thought I'd already won. I woke up before my alarm, like I usually do. The house was quiet in that thin, gray light, and Victoria was asleep beside me, hair across her face, one hand on my chest like it belonged there. For a few seconds I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling that stupid heavy kind of gratitude people talk about in self-help books. The night before, we'd been cleaning up after Sophie's school celebration. Balloons half deflated, paper plates, glitter everywhere. Victoria had pulled it off like she always did. Teachers thanking her, kids laughing, Sophie pretending she didn't care but smiling anyway. "We really are an amazing team," she'd whispered, bumping my shoulder with hers as we rinsed dishes. I remember the way she said "we," like it was solid, like concrete. That morning, I rolled toward her and brushed the hair away from her eyes. She blinked, smiled that tired smile, and mumbled, "What time is it?" "Too early. Go back to sleep," I said. I actually meant it. I wanted her to rest. That's where my head was. The day started like every other school morning. Emma thumping down the stairs in mismatched socks, Sophie already in a hoodie, acting like she was late to a board meeting. Cereal boxes on the table, toast in the toaster, my coffee dripping too slow. "Dad, where's my math folder?" Sophie called. "On the counter under your phone," I answered, because of course I knew where it was. I always knew where things were. Victoria came into the kitchen in leggings and an oversized sweater, hair in a loose bun, scrolling her phone with one hand, grabbing a mug with the other. "I've got a meeting about that new shopping mall project at 11, she said, like it was just another Tuesday bullet point. "Might be late picking up Emma. Can you swing it if I'm stuck?" "Yeah, I've got a lighter afternoon," I replied, taking a sip of coffee. "How big is this project again?" "Big," she said, smiling into her mug. "Could be huge for us." That word again. We moved around each other like a practice dance. I signed Emma's reading log, reminded Sophie about her science quiz, packed lunches, and grabbed my laptop bag. Background noise was teeth brushing, backpack zippers, a cartoon from the living room. Nothing felt off. No heavy silence, no weird energy. Just my family doing Tuesday. At the door, chaos compressed into goodbye. Emma hugged my waist too hard. Sophie did the quick side hug she pretended she was too old for. Victoria stepped close, hand on my chest, looking up at me. "Text me later? Let me know how your meeting goes." "Always do," I said. She kissed me, quick, familiar, like breathing. "I love you," she said, automatic but still warm. "Love you too," I answered without a single doubt in my body. I walked out of that house believing my life was solid. Marriage is strong, kids safe, future predictable. There wasn't a single warning shot. No voice in my head. No tightness in my gut. By noon that same day, I would be standing in that same house, looking at the same woman, and realizing that the life I thought I had never actually existed. It was something stupid that sent me home. A client wanted a printed copy of an older report, signed, and I'd left the folder on my desk instead of putting it back in my bag. 15-minute detour, that's all it was supposed to be. The house felt different during the day, too quiet, like a stage after the show. No cartoons, no clatter, just the low hum of the fridge and the faint sound of typing from down the hall. Victoria was in her home office, headset on, eyes on her screen. She glanced up when I stepped into the doorway. "Forgot some documents," I said, lifting my empty hands like evidence. "Didn't mean to interrupt." She smiled, distracted. "No worries. I'm just going to grab another coffee. Want one?" "Sure," I said. She stood, slipped past me, and walked down the hall toward the kitchen. That's when I noticed it. Her phone on the corner of the desk, screen up, unlocked. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. It buzzed and lit up on its own. One preview line. "Can't wait to see you tonight, my love. B." For a second, my brain didn't even process the words, just the layout. The way the message bubble looked like every other app notification in the world. Then the sentence actually hit. My first thought wasn't anger. It was, that has to be a mistake. I told myself it was spam. Wrong number. A glitch. Anything but what it looked like. I should have walked away, grabbed my folder, went back to work, stayed stupid. Instead, I reached out and tapped the screen. Her messages opened immediately. Her name at the top. Victoria Miller. No code, no lock, no barrier. She'd never needed one. I'd never given her a reason to. The thread filled the screen. That last message sat at the bottom, waiting for her. Above it, a week of hearts, jokes, and late-night confessions. Above that, another week. Then another. The scroll bar shrank as I scrolled up and my stomach dropped with it. I miss your hands. I can't stop thinking about that night. You make me feel alive again. I love you. Brandon Hayes, the coworker from the shopping mall project. The name she'd mentioned over dinner like it was nothing. Brandon had this great idea for the floor layout. Brandon's really sharp with numbers. My hands started shaking. Not dramatic, just this quiet, uncontrollable tremor. I forced myself to keep scrolling. Hotel reservations. Pictures I skipped past fast, catching just enough to know I didn't want details burned into my brain. Plans around school events and my business trips. Jokes about me being so trusting. 6 months worth. 6 months of parallel conversations running beside my life. Emma losing a tooth. Sophie's math competition. Our anniversary dinner. While I was taking family photos, she was texting him from the bathroom. I stood there in her chair, staring at the screen, nausea crawling up my throat, and for the first time in 15 years, I didn't know who my wife was. From the kitchen, I heard the cupboard door close, the kettle clicking. Her footsteps started back down the hall. I didn't put the phone down. I was still in her chair when she walked back in, holding 2 coffees, talking before she even looked up. So I was thinking. She saw the phone in my hand, saw the screen, stopped. Her face drained like someone pulled a plug. Both coffees hit the desk, sloshing over the edge. Andrew, she whispered. I can explain. I didn't yell. My voice came out low, flat. Good. Start. She reached for the phone like it was a bomb and I was holding it wrong. I didn't let go. Please, she said, eyes shiny already. It's not what you think. I stared at her. You're going to stand there and tell me, my love, tonight, I miss your hands is not what I think? Tears spilled over fast, like she'd been waiting for this moment and rehearsing the breakdown. I really do love you, Andrew. I do. I fell in love and, with Brandon, I cut in. Saying his name felt like tasting metal. Your coworker. From the project. From my dinner table. She flinched. It wasn't planned. I was lonely, we were distant. And, how long? I asked. Silence. How long? I repeated, slower. She stared at the floor. It doesn't matter, I ended. Victoria. My voice cracked on her name, but I didn't back off. How long? She swallowed. 6 months. Something in my chest finally stopped fighting and just broke. 6 months. I saw it all at once. Emma's new bike, Sophie's science fair, that weekend away she'd insisted I take to decompress. All those nights, I said quietly, all those mornings, you looked me in the eye, told me we were an amazing team, and then went to text him. I was confused, she choked out. I didn't know what I wanted. I really do love you. No, I said. You loved the version of you that could have both. She tried to step closer. I stepped back. In that kitchen office doorway, something shifted. The confusion faded. The bargaining died. For the first time since I'd picked up that phone, I saw everything clearly. She hadn't made a mistake. She'd built a second life, one text at a time, right next to mine. At some point, we moved from the office to the kitchen. I don't even remember walking there. Just that suddenly we were standing by the island, her crying, me holding her phone like a weapon I didn't want but couldn't drop. Andrew, please, we can fix this, she said, voice breaking. We can do therapy. I'll end it, You ended it this morning? I asked. Last week? Before or after you told him you loved him? Her jaw shook. I do love you. I love our family. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary, I said. A 6-month affair is a decision. That's when I realized I was yelling. Not screaming, but louder than I'd ever spoken to her. My voice bounced off the cabinets, off the tile, off the life we'd built. And that's when I heard it. A small, scared voice from behind me. Dad! I turned. Sophie was in the doorway, backpack half off one shoulder, eyes wide. 12 years old, smart enough to read a room in 5 seconds. There's a plumbing issue at school, she said automatically, like she was reciting a line. They sent some of us home early and... Her gaze dropped to the floor. Why is there coffee everywhere? I looked. One of the mugs had shattered on the tile. Coffee splashed across the white floor like a crime scene I hadn't noticed. Victoria snapped into mom mode so fast it almost made me dizzy. Sweetie, it's okay, we just dropped something. Everything's fine. Nothing in that room was fine. I wiped a hand over my face, forcing my voice steady. Sophie, go to your room for a bit. Okay? Mom and I need to talk about something for adults. Her eyes jumped from me to Victoria and back. Are you guys fighting? Yes, I said. The truth. But you're safe. It's going to be okay. That was the first real lie I told her. She hesitated, like she wanted to push, then just nodded slowly and went down the hall. I watched her disappear, felt something inside me harden. Victoria rounded on me the second Sophie was gone. You can't do this like this. We have kids, Andrew. We have to try. I'll block his number, I'll switch jobs, I'll do therapy, whatever it takes. We can survive this. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman I thought I knew. You're asking me to unknow what I know, I said quietly. Some things you can't come back from. She shook her head, desperate. We're a family. You can't just throw that away. I wasn't sure yet what I was going to do, but I knew this much. She'd already thrown something away. And whatever we were now, it wasn't the same family I kissed goodbye that morning. There's a point where arguing stops being useful. You're not trading ideas anymore. You're just bleeding out slower. We were still in the kitchen, the coffee streak on the floor between us like a line neither of us wanted to cross. Andrew, please just sit down. We don't have to decide anything today, Victoria said. You're in shock. You shouldn't make permanent decisions when you're in shock. She wasn't wrong. I was in shock, but that didn't mean I was incapable of choosing. I set her phone down on the counter, screen still lit with Brandon's name, and something in me flipped. I've decided one thing, I said. I'm not staying married to a woman who could do this. Her face crumpled. Don't say that. Don't. I turned and walked out of the kitchen. I heard her following me down the hall. Andrew, don't walk away from me. We need to talk about this. We can't just... What are you doing? I stepped into our bedroom and went straight to the closet. My hands knew exactly where her suitcase was. We'd used it for family trips, for her so-called conference weekends. I pulled it down from the shelf, set it on the bed, and unzipped it. She stopped in the doorway like she'd hit an invisible wall. What are you doing? I didn't look at her right away. I went to her side of the closet, slid the hangers aside, and started pulling clothes out. Not wild, not ripping things, just efficient. Fold, place, repeat. Andrew, stop, she said, voice sharp now. This is crazy. You're not thinking straight. I'm thinking straighter than I have in a long time, I said. You're leaving. She moved toward me, grabbed a handful of shirts from my hands and shoved them back onto the rod. No, I'm not. This is our house. Our kid's house. You can't just decide that in one morning. You decided this 6 months ago, I said. I'm just catching up. Her eyes welled again. It's not that simple. It is for me. I picked up the shirts again, put them into the suitcase, closed it halfway to flatten them, grabbed jeans from the drawer, underwear, socks. My brain had slipped into a different gear. Practical, cold, almost calm. Where am I supposed to go? She demanded. You've been meeting a guy in hotels for half a year, I said without looking at her. You'll figure it out. She sniffed hard, anger showing through the panic. So that's it? 15 years and you just throw me out like trash. I finally turned to face her. You're not trash, I said. You're the kid's mother. You're also someone who had a second relationship behind my back for half a year. I'm not throwing you out. I'm enforcing the reality you created. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. In a way, she didn't. I didn't either. Please, she said. Please, Andrew. I'm telling you I will end it. I'll call him right now in front of you. I'll quit the project, I'll quit the job, I'll do whatever you want. Don't break up our family over a mistake. I set a pair of folded jeans on the bed, lined up with the others. You're still calling it a mistake, I said. That's the problem. What do you want me to call it? She snapped, frustrated. Self-destruction? Weakness? Are you perfect now? I want you to call it what it is, I said. A double life. A choice you made every day for 6 months, while you told me we were an amazing team. She opened her mouth, closed it again. The room went quiet except for the sound of hangers sliding, drawers opening. I checked the clock on the nightstand. 11:23 a.m. You have 1 hour, I said. Her head jerked up. What? 1 hour? I repeated. To pack what you need and go. After that, I'm done helping. You don't come back here to sleep. You don't come back here to shower. This stops being your home. Her breathing hitched. You can't do that to me. I can do that for me, I said. And for the kids. I'm not going to let them live with someone who can smile at them and text her boyfriend in the bathroom between tucking them in and kissing me goodnight. Tears spilled over again, messy this time. You're going to ruin them. You're going to destroy their sense of security. No, I said. You already did that. I'm just choosing not to pretend. She walked around the bed, grabbed my arm. Think about Sophie. Think about Emma. They need both of us under one roof. We can rebuild. People come back from worse. I gently pulled my arm free. People come back from a drunken one-night stand and full honesty the next day. Maybe. They don't come back from half a year of orchestrated lies. Not in this house. Not with me. She was shaking now. So that's it. You won't even try. You're asking me to live beside someone I can't trust, I said. To share a bed with you, to plan vacations, to take family photos, knowing you're capable of running a second relationship in the background. I'd be monitoring your phone, tracking your location, wondering every time you're 5 minutes late. That's not a marriage. That's a supervised release. She swallowed hard. I'll accept that. I'll accept anything. Just don't end it. And that's exactly why I won't, I said. I'm not going to turn myself into a warden so you can feel less guilty. I'd rather be alone than live like that. She sank down on the edge of the bed, hands in her hair, elbows on her knees. The same bed where we'd slept next to each other for 15 years, where our daughters piled in on weekend mornings to watch cartoons. I can't believe you're doing this, she whispered. I looked at her, really looked. I can't believe you did this, I said. But here we are. She lifted her head. Where will I see the girls? We'll figure out the schedule, I said. You're their mother. I'm not cutting you off from them. But you and I as husband and wife, that ends today. Her eyes searched my face for any sign of hesitation. There wasn't any left. Shock had burned off and left something solid behind. This isn't punishment, I said, more to myself than to her. It's a boundary. There's a difference. What difference? She asked bitterly. Punishment is about you feeling what I feel, I said. A boundary is about me refusing to live with what you chose. I can't stop you from cheating, but I can decide I won't share a roof with someone who does. She stared at the carpet, breathing shallow. I finished what I'd started. A second suitcase came out, one for toiletries, shoes, the everyday stuff that turns a person from a guest into a resident. I set it open on the floor at her feet. You've got 45 minutes, I said quietly. You should start deciding what matters most. The rest you can get later. She didn't move. I walked to the dresser, opened the top drawer, pulled out her jewelry box. Set it gently beside her on the bed. Victoria, I said, this is happening. Whether you move now or I move later, we're done living as husband and wife. She finally looked up at me, mascara streaked, face blotchy in a way I'd never seen. "Do you still love me?" she asked. It was a cruel question. I answered anyway. "Yes," I said, "but I love my self-respect more. And I love our daughters too much to teach them that this is what a man should tolerate to keep a family photo looking pretty." Whatever hope she was holding on to slipped out of her eyes. I stood there for a second, feeling the finality settle. Then I nodded toward the suitcase. "I'll be in the living room with the girls," I said. "You have until 12:30. I turned and walked out. Behind me, I heard the metal rattle of hangers, the slow zip of a suitcase closing, and the quiet, broken sound of someone realizing the safety net is gone. By the time that hour was up, there were 2 suitcases on the bed, some clothes left hanging, and my wife, head in her hands, shoulders shaking, sitting beside the life she'd packed. I stood in the doorway, one hand on the handle of the nearest suitcase, and it hit me. Our marriage wasn't an idea anymore. It wasn't a promise, a ring, or a shared mortgage. It was something in the process of ending, right there on the mattress between us. Victoria was upstairs, closet doors opening and closing, drawers sliding, the muted rhythm of a life being stripped out of a house. I was in the living room with Sophie and Emma, TV off, all 3 of us on the couch like we were waiting for bad news in a hospital. Emma pressed into my side, clutching a stuffed panda. Sophie sat on the other end, arms crossed, eyes sharp and too calm. "Is Mom leaving?" Sophie asked. No warm-up, just straight to it. Could have dodged it. Sent them both to their rooms. Waited until lawyers got involved. Until someone gave me a pamphlet about how to talk to your kids. Instead, I looked at my daughters and decided they would get the one thing their mother hadn't given me. The truth. "Yeah," I said. "She's leaving the house." Emma's head snapped up. "For how long?" I took a breath. "For good." Her eyes flooded immediately. "But why?" Sophie's gaze didn't move. "Did you cheat on her?" she asked. That one hurt more than it should have. "No," I said. "I didn't cheat on her." "Did she cheat on you?" she asked. I held her stare. "Yes." Emma frowned. "But Mom's already in love. With us. And you." I shifted a little so I could see them both. "Sometimes adults say they're in love, and then they make choices that don't match that," I said slowly. "Mom fell in love with someone else. And she didn't tell me." Sophie's jaw clenched. "So, Mom has another boyfriend?" "Yeah," I said. "That's what it means." Emma shook her head hard, like she could physically reject it. No, she wouldn't do that. "We're a family." "We are a family," I said. "That doesn't change. But the way our family looks is going to change. Mom is going to live somewhere else. You'll still see her. You'll still see me. Just not in the same house." Emma started crying for real then, the small, panicked kind. "I want you to stay together," she said. "Can't you just forgive her?" Sophie cut in, voice flat. "That's wrong. What she did. That's just wrong." They were both right in different ways. I pulled Emma into my chest and held out my other arm. After a second, Sophie leaned in, too stiff at first, then softer. "I'm not going to tell you every detail," I said quietly. "You don't need all of it. But you do need to know this: Mom made a choice. A big one. Some choices you can say sorry for and fix. Some you can't undo." Emma's voice was muffled against my shirt. "Are you mad at her forever?" I thought about it. "I'm very hurt," I said, "and very disappointed. One day, I might forgive her for what she did to me. But forgiving someone doesn't mean you have to keep living the same way with them. Trust is different." Sophie sniffed. "So you're not getting back together?" "No," I said. "We're not." The room went quiet. No TV, no phone, no distraction. Just 3 people breathing and one life upstairs packing. "I can promise you 2 things," I said finally. 1. This is not your fault. At all. 2. I'm not going anywhere. You will always have a home with me. It might be smaller. It might look different. But it will be honest. Neither of them answered. They just held on. Between each sentence, There was this heavy silence, like the house itself was absorbing the new reality. I knew no version of this talk would make it hurt less. All I could do was make sure that from this moment on, at least they heard the truth from me. Victoria came down the stairs just before 12:30, dragging one suitcase, carrying the other. Her eyes were swollen, but her posture was still that same familiar straight line. The girls sat on the couch, one on each side of me. She set the suitcases by the door and turned to them first. "I'm going to stay somewhere else for a while," she said, voice soft. "But I love you both so much. That doesn't change." Emma bolted up and wrapped herself around her waist, crying. Sophie stayed seated, watching, her face tight. "You'll have a room at my new place," Victoria said, stroking Emma's hair. "We'll do movie nights and pancakes just like always. Okay?" Emma nodded against her, not really understanding. Sophie finally stood. "Are you and Dad getting divorced?" she asked. Victoria's eyes flicked to me, looking for a lifeline. I didn't move. "Yes," she said, barely audible. "We are." Sophie's chin trembled, but she swallowed it down. "Okay." It wasn't okay, but there were no better words. Victoria looked at me next. "Can we talk about weekends? And visitation?" "We'll work it out," I said. "For now, you can take them this weekend. I'll text you the details." She nodded, wiped at her face, and then knelt to kiss Emma and Sophie one more time. "I love you," she whispered. "So much." She didn't say it to me. I didn't say it to her. I opened the door. She grabbed the suitcase handles, rolled them over the threshold, and walked down the front path without looking back. The door clicked shut. It sounded final. That first night, the bed felt like a piece of furniture in someone else's house. Her pillow sat untouched. Her phone charger was still plugged in on her side, cord hanging loose like an unfinished sentence. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house breathe. Every creak sounded louder without her in it. Around 10, Sophie knocked once and cracked the door. "You okay?" she asked. I almost laughed. "That's my line." She stepped in, hugged me quickly, then backed away before emotion could build. "Good night, Dad." "Good night, kiddo." Around 2 in the morning, Emma patted in, eyes wet, hair tangled. "I had a bad dream," she whispered. "I called for Mom and she didn't come." I shifted over and lifted the blanket. "Come here." She crawled in, curled against me, clutching that panda like a life preserver. I stared into the dark and understood, deep in my bones, that childhood was over for all of us in different ways. The days after that were less dramatic but more exhausting. Wake up, make breakfast, pack lunches, check homework, do school drop-offs, work, answer lawyers' emails, pickups, groceries, laundry, dishes, bedtime. I learned how to do Emma's hair without turning it into a bird's nest. I learned which brand of cereal Sophie actually ate instead of letting it go stale in the pantry. I burned a few dinners. We ate more takeout than I'd like to admit, but we kept moving. Victoria called almost every day. "I ended it with Brandon," she said one afternoon. "For real this time." I blocked his number. I told my boss I can't be on any project with him. "Okay," I said. "Can we try therapy? For us? For marriage?" "No," I said. "Why not?" she asked, like the answer wasn't obvious. "Because ending the affair doesn't end the 6 months you lied to my face," I said. "There isn't a version of this where I go back to pretending I don't know what you're capable of." She cried. I didn't. The first weekend the girls went to her new downtown apartment. I drove them there with their overnight bags in the trunk. The building was nice, modern lobby, shiny elevator, generic art on the walls. It looked like a place for a fresh start if you didn't ask too many questions. Victoria opened the door before we knocked, like she'd been standing there listening. "Hey, my loves," she said, pulling them in, hugging them too long. We did the awkward doorway small talk. School, work, the drive. She asked again right there in the hall. "Please, Andrew, come in for a bit. We can talk. Maybe start over." I shook my head. You have them until Sunday at 5, I said. Text me if there's an emergency. Her eyes searched my face one more time, like she was waiting for the old version of me to step back in. He didn't. I walked back to the car alone, got in, and sat there for a moment in the quiet. This was the new routine. Smaller house, tired eyes, calendar full of responsibilities, but no more lies I didn't know about. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but for the first time in a long time it was mine. If discovery is an explosion, divorce is the cleanup. Less noise, more paperwork, same damage. Filing wasn't dramatic. I met with a lawyer in a bland office with motivational quotes on the wall about new beginnings. I laid out the facts. 15-year marriage, 2 kids, her affair, my decision. He nodded like he'd heard the same story 100 times. He probably had. We'll file for divorce citing irreconcilable differences, he said. If she doesn't contest custody, this can stay pretty clean. Will she contest? I asked. She cheated for 6 months and you can prove it, he said. If she's smart, no? She was smart enough. When the papers were served, she called me crying. I'm not going to fight you in custody, she said. The girls need stability. You're good at that. I don't want them to hate me. That part's not up to me, I said. How they feel is their business. What I won't do is lie to make you look better. We settled on joint legal custody, primarily physical with me. She got weekends, some holidays, a week in the summer. On paper, it looked civilized. In reality, it was one more way of admitting out loud what had already happened. The family was split, and this time it was with signatures. The girls adjusted in their own ways. Sophie stepped up. She started double-checking Emma's backpack, reminding me about permission slips, handling small tasks without being asked. I hated that she had to grow up faster, but I was proud of how she did it. Emma clung longer. When is Mom coming home? Turned into, will you ever forgive her? Always in a small, hopeful voice. One night, she asked the question straight. Do you hate Mom? No, I said. I don't hate her. I don't like what she did. One day I might forgive her for that. But forgiveness and trust are different. You can forgive someone and still decide they don't get the same place in your life anymore. That's where I'm at. She didn't fully get it, but she nodded like she was saving the words for later. About a year after D-Day, Sophie came home from a weekend at her mom's and dropped the final weight on the scale. We were in the kitchen. I was rinsing dishes, she was doing homework. Mom has a new boyfriend, she said, eyes on her notebook. My shoulders tensed. Oh yeah. She poked her pencil at the page. She said he's just a friend. But they were holding hands when they thought I wasn't looking. I let out a slow breath. How do you feel about that? She shrugged, but her jaw was tight. I don't know. I'm glad you divorced her. It wasn't the joy I felt. It wasn't vindication. It was something quieter and colder, a confirmation. She hadn't cheated because our marriage was uniquely unbearable. She cheated because she could split herself in half and live 2 lives at once. Knowing that didn't fix anything, didn't erase court dates or kids' tears, but it did one important thing. It killed the last trace of doubt in my mind about whether I'd done the right thing walking her out of this house. 2 years isn't long enough to forget. It is long enough to see things clearly. I'm still Andrew Miller, still a dad, just not a husband anymore. The house is smaller now, different neighborhood, cheaper mortgage, fewer rooms to clean. There's a dent in the hallway from when Emma tried to ride a scooter inside, and the couch looks like it survived a small war. But everything here feels earned. Nothing feels fake. Sophie's 14 now. She doesn't ask why I divorced her mother anymore. She knows. She saw enough, heard enough, put the pieces together. Every once in a while, she'll say something like, if I ever date a guy who lies like that, you have permission to yell at me. I tell her I won't yell. I'll just help her pack. Emma's 11. She still misses the idea of the old family sometimes. The 4 of us at the table, vacations, movie nights. But she doesn't talk about us getting back together anymore. I think she understands, in her own way, that some doors close and stay closed. They both see marriage differently now. They don't swallow the fairy tale version whole, and yeah, that's a scar. But they also know what honesty looks like. They've watched me show up, day after day, no secret double life, no disappearing acts. Just a man who cooks, works, helps with homework, and doesn't pretend everything is fine when it isn't. Victoria's still in their lives. Weekend visits, birthdays, texts. I don't ask about her personal situation. I don't want to know who she's dating or what story she tells about me. I coordinate drop-offs, school events, logistics, polite, distant, clean lines. People sometimes ask if I regret divorcing her. The answer's no. I regret the situation. I regret that my kids had to learn about betrayal before high school. But ending the marriage, that was me choosing not to live in a lie just because it photographed well. So here's what I tell you, man to man, if you're listening to this because your gut just dropped and your world feels like mine did that Tuesday. Finding out you've been betrayed will wreck you. For a while. It'll hit your pride, your trust, your sense of judgment. But what you do next, that's where your character shows up. For me, trust is non-negotiable. I'd rather raise my girls in a smaller place with secondhand furniture and the full truth than in a big house built on half-truths and staged smiles. You don't control who cheats on you. You do control whether you stay in a life that requires you to swallow your self-respect to keep the picture intact. I chose a smaller, honest life. I choose it again.